Welcome back to the Spokane Rent Report. My name's Brian Johnson. I'm a real estate broker and senior property manager at Windermere Lease Source right here in Spokane. We manage about 1,300 units in this town, so we have our pulse on the rental rates. I track the rental rates on both Zillow and other sources on a weekly basis, mostly for my clients. And then I'm creating now these rental reports for you guys here on YouTube and Facebook so you can see what's going on the trends on rents going on in Spokane, Spokane Valley, Liberty Lake, Cheney, North. We're going to be covering all of that. We're going to go over houses and apartments. So stay tuned, and I'm going to cover that stuff for you right now. So let's start with Spokane itself. Rents are on the rise again. Now, for the last maybe 5 months, I was recommending some of my clients. I know it was wintertime, but we were not raising rents at this time. There was a few instances, actually, we were lowering rents. We were a little ahead of our skis, I think, on some properties. So I've stopped actually recommending that my clients are lowering rents going into the spring and summer. Also, that's more ideal time for landlords to be having those rent increases. But we're seeing it across the board, and I didn't see this trend last year at this time. We've had quite a run here where rents nationally and in Spokane were either flat or slightly trending down a little bit for quite a while. So now we're seeing that trend up. So back to City of Spokane. 3-bedroom house right now, we're looking at the average or the median average rent is up 2.2% from April, and that's $2,114 is the average 3-bedroom house. Now, you guys, if you go pull these statistics yourself, you might see a slightly different number depending on the day you pull it or your source. So what I recommend, if you're pulling them yourself, always pull from the same source every time you do it, and that way you can see the trend instead of comparing sources, because they might treat vacant properties different. They might they just treat things different depending on their algorithm. So stick to one source, and I'm sticking to that one source here on Zillow. Zillow by far is the best source of data for rentals. It's where the game is being played mostly right now. I think it was last week or a few weeks ago, I made a video how I got 749 property rental leads in 1 month for free. And I'll tell you right now, that's true, and I did that mostly on Zillow. 70% of our business comes from Zillow. The rest comes from apartments.com, rent.com, and then our webpage. Now, going back to the City of Spokane, that we got that out of the way. The average 2-bedroom rent on an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment right now is $1,401, $1,401, and that's up 1.7% from last month. So you're seeing a $46 jump on houses and a $23 jump on apartments. So this range is pretty wide depending on the neighborhood. Kendall Yards, South Hill are definitely draws. They're going to be pulling more. North Spokane is actually pretty good right now. So you're going to see, there's a lot of variability here in these numbers. 3-bedroom house on the South Hill that's 3,000 square feet. It's going to be a lot of different pricing than a 3-bedroom house in central Spokane on a busy street. So that's just the factor of the way it goes. So we're looking at average and median prices here. Spokane Valley is a little bit more of a mixed bag right now, you guys. It's not going the same as everywhere else. In fact, so is Liberty Lake. But dropping into Spokane Valley, we're looking 3-bedroom homes climbed up to $1,927 on average. That's a $24 a month jump from last month. And that's 1.3%. A 2-bedroom apartment actually slipped down by $9, 0.6% drop. The average rent is $1,465 right now for a 2-bedroom apartment in the valley. There's been a lot of new construction in the valley. Some really big complexes have gone in. A lot of duplexes that are really nice. All of it is going to change the mix on the rental rates. But the new construction going on right now is way more in the valley than it is in the city of Spokane. Spokane, we're obviously massively short on housing and permits and all of that stuff, but it's really hard to build in the city of Spokane, and the city of Spokane Valley is a lot more friendly to developers, so that's why you're seeing the money go there. That is going to cause a lot of people with newer apartments. That's going to cause a lot of draw to there. It's going to pull from the other areas, and that's going to affect things like Liberty Lake, which is coming up. So like I just said, Liberty Lake is cooling off a little bit. It's been the hottest market for rentals for quite some time. It was taking some big jumps up through the summer, but right now we're looking at a 3-bedroom house is down $25 in Liberty Lake. The median or average price for a house is $2,699. And a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,689 for the average rent on the 2-bedroom apartment on Liberty Lake. So this marks the second month of decline for Liberty Lake, and I can tell you why. There's a little bit of overbuilding maybe in the construction. Not overbuilding, but there's a lot of new construction going on in Liberty Lake. That's going to be a draw. You're going to see, like I said in that my last comment about the valley, with all of those big apartments going in the valley, and even the North Spokane, that's going to be pulling people because there's just not any big new construction apartment projects going on in Liberty Lake. So At least for right now, we don't have a 300 unit building that just opened up with a lot of vacancies, but you do see that in other parts of the town. That's going to be a draw for those new units. They drop their prices. Suddenly, Liberty Lake's not such an affordable option for someone if they can get a brand new apartment pretty close. Still works. Now let's look at down at Cheney. I used to live in Cheney for a while. It's a pretty interesting market. A 3-bedroom house is $2,295 right now in Cheney, and a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,295 right now in Cheney. Eastern Washington, the university cycle means seasonal demand for sure, but right now, rent increases suggest pretty stable interest in Cheney. I like Cheney. It's underrated and it's consistent because you've got students down there. But it's not just students. We have a number of units that we rent out down in Cheney, and it's not always students moving in down there. A lot of people from Fairchild military families are going down there. Also, it's just a slightly more affordable option for some people to be down there instead of Spokane with a little bit of a drive. So those are factors that significantly affect Cheney, and Cheney's a stable market. All right, guys, Airway Heights has entered the chat. I'm going to start tracking Airway Heights also. We have a number of houses and units over there that we pay attention to that we're managing. So Airway Heights obviously is a big factor in these rent reports. With Fairchild right there and all that, we just can't avoid it. Why would you? Airway Heights is a great market. Right now, a 3-bedroom home on average in Airway Heights is $2,062. A 2-bedroom apartment right now in Airway Heights, the average is going to be $1,351. Like I said, with Fairchild right there, Airway Heights is always going to be a consistent rental place. If you're looking at buying a property and you want to invest in this town, Airway Heights, I would consider Airway Heights. You've got some new construction in there. You've got some warranties in there. That's great. I like the fact of new construction and rentals right now, as long as you can get that price pretty decent, because you've got a new roof, you've got new systems, you've got new AC, you've got new heaters, and that stuff is crazy expensive right now to repair. And I see those repair bills coming through for my clients, and I can see a $30,000 roof, I can see an $8,000 AC heat system, I can see a $4,000 gas hot water heater being put into places. It's expensive right now to get stuff done. That's why I like new construction. If you can get it under $500,000 and get that rent up around $2,600 a month, as long as you don't have a big expense ratio, that's going to work out over time. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but on single family houses, the expense ratio over time can be as high as 50% of your gross revenue. Something to pay attention to. That's something that's going to hit you if you're buying older homes and you're going to rent those out. You have to consider that. So Liberty Lake still holds the highest price point in town. So that's a good place to invest, I think, because it's also always going to be a solid market. It's a great, safe community. Also, a lot of people that like living there, they have the Idaho access, so it's easy to pop right over there and still live your lifestyle partly in Idaho and still in Washington with no income tax. So I think Liberty Lake's always going to be a pull. For investors, Central, or just Spokane itself, just because of our housing shortage. Also, there's some infill opportunities in Spokane for putting up to 4 units on a city lot. There's places where you can put townhouses in. So there's a lot of opportunities for real estate going on right now if you really look deep. And you can see those opportunities. Really, there's opportunities all over. But I like Airway Heights. I like the Valley right now. And I still like Liberty Lake just because it's a solid market. So here's some key takeaways from this video. Number 1 right now, Spokane and Cheney are rising markets. I like them. Liberty Lake is cooling, regardless of what I said just a second ago. It is cooling a little bit, so you might want to pay attention to that. There's good and bad in that. The Valley is showing dual trends, a little up, a little down. Lots of new construction. That's going to play out over the next year and the way it's going to play out. So we're going to be watching that, but it is dual trends. Airway Heights offers a lot of stability. And again, like I said, with Cheney, I think that offers a lot of stability too for investors. If you found this information valuable, like and subscribe. Well, you can't subscribe if you're on Facebook, but pop over to my YouTube channel and you can subscribe over there. Brian Johnson, Real Estate Broker, Spokane, you'll find me. And I'll be putting these out on my other channel, Brian Johnson, Real Estate Investor. You can see that link if you're on Facebook at the top of my page, or if you go to my Instagram, you can see it there. And that one is where I review investor platforms where you can invest in real estate and not have to obviously buy the real estate, but there's fractional investment opportunities out there. Some are safe, some aren't. On that channel, I go over which ones I like, which ones I don't, recommendations, how to invest on those. If you're interested in that, I would check that out. Otherwise, look forward to more of these rental reports if that's something you like. If you're a local investor, give me a call if you have any questions, or if you need any help at all. I'd like to help. I can offer advice, and I'm always here for you.